Okay, here we are back again. We've got our piece of LVL here. It catches several floor joists that are going across it like that, so it's underneath those. I tacked it up with one screw to hold it up here tight, and then I've got the post going down to the jack that we'll look at in a second. But the primary situation we're trying to fix here is that this subfloor, nowadays subfloor is 3/4 inch plywood, but prior to that it was 3/4 inch tongue and groove boards, and you had strength when you tied across the top of all the floor joists. That's another element of structural strength that you had. When they're cut like this all the way across, it compromises that to an extent, and then if you cut off the joists too, now you really compromise things. So you can see, it may be hard to tell here, but this is close to flush here. And then it gets larger and larger there. You can see it there. It goes down farther and farther. And then it heads back over here. And we get close to flush again. So it's just dipping down. So I've got, these have all been cut, these floor joists, and they were cut over there. Right over there is the outside wall of the building. So those floor joist ends may need to go up a tiny bit, but they're immediately supported, or almost immediately supported. Over here, it's a lot farther to the carrying beam. So I'll show you what I've got down here. It's not a completely perfect situation to illustrate this concept, but I am going to cover it anyway. But I mended two 2x4s together rather than consume 10-foot 2x4s. It was like 106 inches I needed with the one piece of LVL on the floor and the jack. So since I had some 2x4 even shorter than 8 feet, to be able to use those, I stacked up a bunch of blocks here to make up the difference. It makes the handle, puts the handle closer to me if I'm standing anyway, and we don't ruin 10-foot 2x4s cutting them to fit. But I got that in there, and then I checked it with the level, using it like a plumb to be sure that I had it reasonably plumb in this aspect and in this aspect at 90 degrees, and I brought everything up tightly. I'm not concerned about dispensing the weight dispersing the pressure and force to that piece of LVL up there, but the cylinder that's going to come out of this jack is just pressing on the end grain of the 2x4s. I had a piece of steel that I was going to use, but it's just too hard. You want to be centered with the post on the center line of the jack, and when you get a really big piece of steel in there, it's hard to find, to be sure that you're centered over the jack, and the steel is going to protect splitting out this end, but that's under really extreme pressure, which I don't think we're going to have here. So we're going to just go up. You can hear things. I'll try to be quiet with the jack so that you can hear. Cracking, creaking. If you haven't got everything aligned here, and if you're really violent, the pressure can, and if you haven't got a stack of blocks that is tight for the most part, this is I discarded him because he was warped a little bit and I was getting a lot of rocking back and forth out of him. And of course you will eventually flatten that out, but on the way to flattening out, the variables involved here, the forces may change how it's sitting in a semi-violent way, and it can disturb the whole arrangement and cause it to kick out or whatever. If it kicks out, it normally just goes floop and falls over, and you know, I'm concerned about the window and stuff, so I'm just being aware of that, but it's not going to explode that I know of. I've never had that happen, and I've done a lot of this, so what I would do is just keep going up. And I can get a little floor creak here, and I can hear a little floor creak there, and then we'll just go up. We'll take the light, and we'll have a look at what we've achieved or not achieved here. And I can see that it's moving up pretty well. And I'm just going to go back and forth doing that and see what I can get to happen here. And we'll, I guess we'll just cover it in case there's a... I will put safety glasses on just because it's easy enough to do. And we'll just keep... And you will have creaking and groaning and cracking, and you can watch how much of the hydraulic ram you've exposed. We've probably exposed 1 inch. And we certainly are pressing as much on this floor as we are up there. In fact, we're pressing more locally because we haven't, there's floor joists in this floor just as there are floor joists above, and we've got a 5 or 6 foot stretch of LVL spreading these forces out, and we've got like a 2 foot piece here, so we'll be lucky if we're on more than one floor joist, so I want to be cognizant of that. We worked on the floor like this in the basement under this main carrying beam in the summer last year. And because of the nature of the floor down there, what we actually noticed was for all of our jacking and exposing of the hydraulic ram and going up a little bit, we eventually noticed that we were just pressing our foot into the soft dirt floor down there. So we ended up going larger with our cribbing, it's called, the blocking that you prepare to disperse the pressure on the floor as you're cribbing, commonly stacked like Lincoln logs back and forth. This is just a simple stack here, whatever. But so I want to make sure that I don't just punch in the have the corners start a feel of the floor here and have it. I don't feel it pushing down too much yet, but I could come away here if I'm not careful. If I just went nuts, I could come away with like a witness mark or a little stamped in shape in this old tile from having done this job. So if I get to a point where I'm not seeing enough of a return up there for as much pressure as I've got here, I'll have to back off the pressure, reset, and perhaps use 2 or 3 of these to spread it around, or find a long stretch to spread it out. But we'll go a couple more times. Now we're really hearing it cry out up there, which is good. Cry uncle. Teach you a lesson about not being the way that you should be. And we are closing this gap. It's hard to appreciate this. It's not a gap. It may look like an opening between the 2 ends, but as you can see, it's not. You're looking at the exposed ends of those boards coming at us, and we're trying to get this face, trying to put this face flush with that face. And right now, as you can see, they are not. But I was able to get my fingers in above it before, and now I cannot. So we need to travel about another inch. And there is some collateral settling, so yeah, I normally go a little farther than I really want to build in my structural, components that I plan to add to maintain. And then when I take away the jack and everything, it may settle a bit, but hopefully it comes back to where I wanted it to be. So check it out. We'll come back after we make some more headway.